Welcome everybody back to Friar Talk. Today is going to be our finale of doing our series on AJ Preller's trading. And basically, we graded all of the years of his trades. And then for the 2020 season, we just kind of looked at it. Too early to grade, but we've been going through. And the idea for this series was we want to see if AJ Preller is good at trading. That was the main thing. Some people were like, hey, why are you going back into the past? Why are you looking at 2015? That doesn't really matter as much anymore. The point of doing this was to see if AJ Preller is good at trading. So today, going to go through, and I'm just going to go over the names that I've highlighted, the big names that have either come in or left the Padres. You add Matt Kemp, you lose Yasmani Grandal in that deal. You add Will Myers, you lose Trey Turner. You add Justin Upton, you lose Max Fried. You add Craig Kimbrell, you lose Cameron Maben. You add Manny Margot, you lose Craig Kimbrell. You add Drew Pomeranz for not much. I think you traded Yonder Alonso in that deal. The big one, this one that everyone wants to talk about, you add Fernando Tatis for James Shields. You add Chris Paddock for Fernando Rodney. You add Anderson Espinoza for Drew Pomeranz after you added him for not much before. You add Josh Naylor. You lose Andrew Kashner. Going through a couple more, you lose Emmanuel Claus for pretty much nothing. You add Francisco Mejia for Brad Hand. I'm almost done here. Don't bear with me. You add Taylor Trammell. You lose Franmil Reyes. That's one that's always going to hurt. And then you get into the most recent trades of 2019 plus. So just going through this, and those are just like the big names. Obviously, we're not going to go super in depth since we've already done that through a bunch of videos. This will be part of a playlist. I'll do that. I'll upload that today. And it'll basically it'll have like all of the different years where we go through and we talk about them. But looking at it after going through all of these deals, how do you feel about AJ Preller? Do you feel that he is good at trading? Isaac, start us off. How are you feeling?
No, he's definitely not, but I still have confidence in him that he will, he will be able to bounce back in some sort of way. And the only reason I still like him at this point, a lot of people wouldn't, and I wouldn't be surprised if at this point a lot of people don't. But in my opinion, like as a Padres fan, at least he's trying. Like he's trying to put a winning product out there. And yeah, you're giving up a lot of prospects. Prospects are always going to be very hit and miss. So I don't, I don't, I don't I'm not going to bash him for trading prospects because you never know what you're going to get out of them. But at the same time, Max Fried is going to be the one that, in my opinion, will always bite because I really like Max Fried. And I mean, we've discussed it in one of the last videos. Who's to say that? And we were talking about Cal Quantrill in this instance, but now I'm talking about Max Fried. Who's to say he would have been a good pitcher for the Padres, considering the history of the Padres and developing their pitchers? Hasn't looked very pretty, and I'm not going to place that on AJ Preller. I'm going to place it a lot on most recently Larry Rothschild. It's not a coincidence that he leaves and then Blake Snell turns into something that I've honestly I haven't seen a more dominant stretch out of a Padres pitcher, at least not recently. But it was really good for him, and I will place some of the Padres pitcher struggles on Larry Rothschild or just the organization in general because I thought Chris Paddock flashed a lot, and this is going back to the Chris Paddock for Fernando Rodney trade, and I still think he won. I mean, not like you were going to get much out of Rodney anyway, but I still have faith in Paddock. I still have faith in Grisham. I still have faith in a lot of the guys he traded for, quite frankly. Now, what bites is you just lost a lot of guys that turned into studs, unfortunately, and they went to good organizations. Trey Turner went to the Nationals, and they've been able to develop some guys and at least keep guys good. Is something that we haven't been able to do. Is keep guys good. When you look at, they kept Max Scherzer pretty damn good. But going with the Braves also, that's another really good organization to go to for Max Fried. Unfortunately for us, we don't really have that track record of a really good organization to go to, and whether that has to do with AJ Preller making those trades and the players unfortunately not panning out, you can either blame that on Preller or you can blame that on the developmental department or whoever develops these players and are the coaches of these players. You can blame it on that too. Not entirely sure. Will Myers sure did look pretty damn good before he came to us. It was only a year, but he did look really good. And I still have confidence in AJ Preller, though. I still think he's going to put a winning product out on the field. And you can look at it one of two ways last year, because I think last year is when people really started thinking, damn, like maybe AJ Preller is not the move. You can look at it one of two ways. In August, this team was a 70-win team. They were 5 games up in the wild card race. You can look at it like that, or you can look at the team that, quite frankly, struggled because they lost some pitchers. Fernando underwent some struggles with injury, and the team just was not the same Padres that we knew. So you could take the small sample size, you could take the big sample size. I'll go ahead and take the big one.
I'm with Isaac. I don't think AJ Preller's a great trader. He does have a great eye for talent. I'll give him that. When he does give away prospects, he is usually really, really good at replacing them with high tier guys, high level guys. I mean, we saw Mackenzie Gore, CJ Abrams, Ryan Ruthers come, which is like the first 3 years of first round picks that were all ultimately really successful. We saw guys come out of Latin America. As international signings have always been great, but the thing that kind of makes AJ falter from being a great or good trading GM is he always goes for the big name guys, and it kind of burns him. So, with like the Blake Snells, the Mike Clevenchers, the Will Myers, the trading for Justin Upton, trading for Craig Kimbrell, that whole 2015 season, you traded for nothing but big name guys, and it burned you. You got rid of a lot of your top prospects, and you set yourself behind 3-4 years doing so. And being able to develop your talent, I'm going to place part of the blame on AJ Preller. He is the GM. He hires the managers. He hires developmental guys. And when you're going through a hitting coach a year, or you had Darren Balsley, and unfortunately he retired, and you replace him with Larry Rothschild, these things are on you. You hired these people because you thought these were the best guys for the job, and obviously they weren't. I mean, when you go through 5 hitting coaches in 5 years, something's obviously wrong, and you need to fix it. I mean, they've done a great job now. I mean, we have Ruben Niebla now, and we have the guy from the Giants whose name I cannot remember for the life of me right now. I mean, you're taking steps in the right direction for development, but you had 5 years before that where there was not really any development, not really any guys getting a true chance other than Fernando to be a starting position player. Outside of maybe some pitchers, that's just because you didn't have pitchers. You didn't have starting pitchers. You had bullpen, but you didn't have any real starting pitchers. And when you try to develop your players, you go, okay, this guy can't start every day, but he's going to start every 4th day, and he's going to be the first guy off the bench. That's not how you develop players. That's the same reason why Luis Urias never developed on the Padres, why Francisco Mejia never developed on the Padres, why a few other guys never developed on the Padres, because they were never given a true opportunity. They were bench players and said, you know what, your time's going to come up. It's just not now. And then you give up on them after a year, maybe a year and a half, because they made no progress. How are you supposed to make progress without real playing time? I think that's one of the flaws in the Padres system, and that starts from a top-down thing. So they've made a lot of changes, great changes recently, but I'm still going to say I don't think AJ Preller is that great of a trader.
Real quick before I get into mine, the Padres hitting coach name is Michael Bradar, I believe is how you pronounce it. Last name is Brdar. I whiffed on that one the other day, so I had to bring that up. But looking at AJ Preller's trades, if the question is he good at trading, I think it's hard to say yes to that answer, that yes, he is good at trading. And if you look at a couple, you look at, okay, yeah, they got Jake Cronenworth in a deal. They got Fernando Tatis. If you look at the big ones, yes, he's hit on them. But there are quite a few trades where they get pretty bad. And I'm not going to go with like the ones where he's losing a prospect. Also, side note, is it really loud with the siren right now? Okay, not too bad. Okay. Yeah, New York, it gets ridiculous sometimes. Sometimes it's impossible to record. Anyways, moving on from that. You look at some of these deals and you go, okay, he loses a prospect and it's like a small prospect, and then he becomes a great player. I'm not going to harp on those deals when I'm complaining about AJ Preller, because if we're going to go and knock him for that, well, then what about all the guys that are just throw-in pieces like a Fernando Tatis, like a Jake Cronenworth, like a bunch of international prospects that he's brought over or been close to trying to add? Because you look at some of the guys that he hasn't been able to add, Shohei Ohtani, he really was pushing for him. Like, you look at the guys that he's tried to add in the international market, and he's been great. He's been great at adding talent to the Padres system. So when I'm looking at, like, was it a guy that wasn't like a super highly touted guy that ended up becoming really good for another team, I'm not going to judge him as much on that. However, where I am going to judge him is, why do you try to go after guys at their highest point? The Will Myers trade is such a bad trade. And yes, it happened like 7 years ago, but it's still hurting the Padres. And right now it's going to be hurting the Padres a lot worse when you have Trey Turner playing for the Dodgers and Will Myers playing for the Padres. That is a brutal one, right? It's those trades that are just like, dude, you cannot pull that move. And I don't know that he's not going to continue to try to pull those like crazy trades where he's going after the big name guy that's at the peak of his powers. Now I know this is free agency, but Nick Castellanos has been a guy that's been brought up a ton that AJ Preller really likes. It's that type of move. I know it's not a trade, but it's that type of move that I'm really concerned about AJ Preller. The small moves, if he's just doing little dinky dunk moves like that, I got faith in him. I got faith in him that he's going to have the eye for the talent because that is something that we know AJ Preller is elite at. He is an elite talent evaluator. He is very, very good. Building a staff, definitely been questionable. However, this 2022 Padres team is going to have the best coaching staff it's had, and I don't even think it's really that close, at least in Preller's tenure. So I would say no, he's not good at trading, but I don't think it has to kill him because he's so good at evaluating talent. In not as much of the draft, but mostly the international market. So I still have faith in him. But up to this point, it hasn't been very good. And you look at a lot of the names that the Padres have lost, it's been pretty tough. The good thing is he did make the trade for Fernando Tatis that has completely changed his franchise around. So at the end of the day, you can't be like, oh, he's horrible at it, he's awful. And I don't think any of us feel that way. But if you go through it, like he's definitely lost more than he's won. But at least he has a couple. He has the grand slam with the Fernando Tatis deal. So it's not like horrible, but he has to improve over this next year. They have to be good, or I do think that you're going to see AJ Preller. I mean, I think he's already getting on the hot seat a little bit, but it's getting a little tough for him. So you got to continue to see him kind of not maybe go for those home run type moves that are like, dude, you're going for the guy at the worst time you could ever go sign him or the worst time you could ever go trade for him. So if he reduces that, which I do feel like he has, I do feel like that was a thing that he did a lot more early on. I think he'll be a lot more successful. But anything else you guys want to add?
Yeah, I want to add that just remember, trading for Fernando, like Matt said, it definitely changed the trajectory of this organization. If he doesn't trade for Fernando or if Fernando doesn't hit, we're not excited going into 2022. We're not even optimistic. Or going into 2021, we're not excited at all. So, that's a franchise altering move that, I mean, quite frankly, how many managers make that move? I can't really remember a lot of moves that have been made that like, you buy, I would say buy low. I think you bought low on Fernando because he was kind of a highly touted prospect, and James Shields sucked. So you're not very hopeful if you don't get Fernando. But outside of that, yeah, he has been the best trader. What's up?
Andrew Koshner for Anthony Rizzo.
That's a good one too. Yeah, absolutely. That is a franchise altering move. Going back to, damn it, dude, I forgot what I was going to say. I think Matt, I'll remember that part later, but I was going to talk about something else about buying high. We've been saying that that's sort of AJ Preller's con. He buys high on so many players, and it's like it's so obvious when you see it. Like Eric Hosmer, you kind of bought high. I don't even think he came off of that great of a season. Or yeah, he didn't he? He came off of a pretty good season.
He had over 300. He had like 30 something home runs. He had like over an 800 OPS. It was like a career year, his best year ever.
And he bought high. And what's funny is someone who worked in Fangraphs, I believe directly for the Padres, went up to him and said, "Hey, don't do this. Like, don't do this deal, dude. it's gonna be bad." And nonetheless, AJ Preller didn't listen. That guy's not with the Padres anymore. AJ Preller didn't listen. It backfires. I actually remembered what I was going to say earlier is that Matt brought up that AJ Preller was pretty aggressive in trying to get Shohei Ohtani. Another name, and I know Chase was going to bring this up if I didn't probably, was Juan Soto. He was pretty aggressive in trying to get Juan Soto as well. So it's not that he's not making the attempts. It's that he just, I don't even think he whiffed on the Nationals. Juan Soto just took a worse deal. I don't know why. But it's just that he yeah.
I was gonna say, do you remember that story? Like basically the Nationals offered him something And he like, if you would have waited one more day, the Padres would have offered him more. It's like it's like a nightmare for any Padres fans.
So basically, the Nationals offered him $1 million to sign with them, and his coach didn't think that he was going to get a better offer than that. He told Juan Soto to take the deal. So that night they took the deal, and the next morning the Padres were going to call Juan Soto's family and him and the coach and say, "We're going to offer you $2 million, but he already signed the deal with the Nationals."
What a bummer. So it's not that it's so, like I was saying, it's not that he's not trying, it's that it just didn't work out for him. I mean, we could have had Shohei Ohtani, we could have had Juan Soto. It just didn't work out for us. And that's why I'm going to give AJ, I'm going to give him props for that, because he has the eye for talent. It's just that he's striking out on some of these trades. And I said earlier, I'm grateful for what he's trying to do. I'm not going to be, ungrateful for him trying to make the Padres a great organization, trying to get us to a World Series that we quite frankly deserve. But it's just, building a super team doesn't always work out in baseball. Rarely does it work out, in my opinion. It's not basketball where you can build a super team and, in this era you see super teams everywhere, and those are going to be the only teams competing in the league. No, I don't think it works that way. The Braves weren't necessarily a super team. The Dodgers have had super teams for years and have come out with 160-game World Series. Like, it's always the team who's the hottest and has the right pieces. And that's what AJ's kind of not understood, is that he needs the right pieces rather than the big pieces. And I think he's going to adapt to that more. And I'm still confident, man. I'm still going to rock with AJ. I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime you see a World Series winner, it's kind of not been the best baseball team there is, other than like Dodgers in 2020. That was a shortened season, but they were the best team there was that year. This year or last year, the Braves definitely weren't. They had lost their star player. They had lost Mike Soroka. They definitely were not at the top of their game, but they won a World Series. The Giants in the 2010s, they never won the division. They were always wild card guys. They came in and won 3 years and on an even year. It's never the team that has the best team. It's the team that always has the right pieces and the best chemistry. And that's what the Giants did really well. They kept their guys and believed in them for 6 years, and it got them 3 World Series. For us, Preller kept trying to build a super team, and it doesn't necessarily work that way. You need to have the team chemistry with it. You need to have the right guys. You need to have the right pieces, the right coaches. I feel like that's where the Padres were lacking the most, where they didn't have the right coaches. They have the right guys. They just didn't have the guy to take them there.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. And I don't know if I have complete faith in AJ Preller, but I also think a lot of people think that he's just awful. Not everyone. I think there's some people that think he's awful. And I don't think that's accurate. I think there's a lot of things that he does really, really well. And I think there's some areas that he's struggled in. We've talked about this before too. Maybe getting some other people in the building to be like, AJ, let's not pull this deal, man. Let's not go make this signing. Like, let's double think this. I think if you had some voices like that, I think it'd help a lot. Hopefully Bob Melvin, and I know he's not going to be working in management and stuff like that, but him as a manager for the team, I think that he will have a significant voice, and I think that means a lot. So hopefully that's something that does happen. Hopefully we see AJ continue to adapt. I do think that we've seen him adapt a decent amount. And we talked about the 2020 deadline. He went and that was the year of like, hey, we got it. Like, let's go all in. Like, let's try to win this. And we talked about, is it going to burn them? And we all thought probably not. Now we're not going to say like, oh, definitely not. It's not going to burn them, but probably not. It's probably not going to hurt them really bad. There's a couple deals we don't love. I mean, we went over it. We went over it yesterday, but there's a couple deals we don't love. But like, it's not like the end of the world. And besides the 2015 trades, I don't think there's been one where it's like, wow, it's totally screwed up now that because of these trades that happen. So that's where I'm at. But let us know what you guys think. How do you feel about AJ Preller? Do you think he's good at trading? And no, we cannot just only discuss the Fernando Tatis deal in this discussion. But with all that said, thank you guys for listening. We're going to be going live tomorrow for the Super Bowl. I'm assuming probably 9 a.m. Chase Isaac, I haven't checked with you guys. I should be good for it. We will see, but I'll post it on today. I'll post it today whenever we're going to go. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Let us know your Super Bowl predictions when we come there. We'll discuss that. We'll discuss some Padres stuff as well. Be a fun time. Probably go for live for about an hour. But let me know what you guys are thinking about this AJ Preller topic. and make sure to tune in tomorrow for that live stream. So thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you guys very soon.